All they've left us are their fossils, the dried out mineral remnants of the creatures they once were, with the organic material that gave them life long gone, or so everyone always thought.
Just a little bit more about me. Until recently, I ran a multi-million-dollar electron microscope laboratory at a state university in California, California State University, Northridge, and until I published the work that you're about to hear, and then I was summarily dismissed. And I think you'll see why when we get to the end of the presentation.
Think dinosaur, and most of us think this. The 1993 classic film Jurassic Park, with its dinosaur resurrection experiment gone wrong, and its embattled hero, famed paleontologist Alan Grant.
You consulted on that movie.
I did consult on all those movies.
And they said the guy Alan Grant was you.
Yes, yeah, well, fortunately he didn't get eaten.
Meet Jack Horner, the real-life Alan Grant. He's one of the most prominent and controversial paleontologists in the country, a dyslexic MacArthur Foundation genius who never finished college and who says he doesn't care why dinosaurs went extinct. To him, the important part is how they lived.
I'm trying to figure out the biology of dinosaurs and what they were like as living creatures.
You want to know what their behavior was, how they treated their young.
I want to know everything we can know about them and make one if we can.
And he's found the perfect partner in his protege, Mary Schweitzer, a professor at North Carolina State University who studies the internal makeup of ancient bone. She let us in on the paleontologist's trick for telling dinosaur bone from rock. You don't just look at it.
Touch your tongue to that.
She actually wanted me to lick it.
It's supposed to stick like Velcro.
Oh, it did.
That's bone.
That's how you can tell.
Yeah, because the bone is filled with little capillaries.
The tricky thing about Schweitzer's work is that she needs to get her hands on the insides of dinosaur bones, which means literally breaking the bones apart and sometimes dissolving pieces of them in acid. Most paleontologists won't let her near their precious finds.
Jack is the only paleontologist out there who lets me dissolve his dinosaurs.
Dissolve his dinosaurs.
But they found a very large T-Rex femur in the Hell Creek Formation in Montana, near Glendive. And we've dug on that same ranch.
What happened next happened by mistake. Mary put some fragments of the bone in acid to dissolve away the outermost layer of mineral. But the acid worked too fast, and all the mineral dissolved away. Being a fossil, there should have been nothing left. But there was. And it was elastic, like living tissue.
This is the piece.
No.
She showed us video she took under the microscope.
That's really what happened?
Yes.
That's the dinosaur bone?
Without mineral now. That's what was left.
It looked like the soft tissue she would have expected to find if it had been modern bone. This was impossible. This bone was 68 million years old.
And Leslie Stahl is interviewing Mary, and Mary shows a video of her stretching some tissues. And something interesting happened in the interview. Leslie Stahl saw her stretching the tissue and she went, no. Now I need you all to practice that. Because I'm going to show you a stretchy video today. So on three, ready? 1, 2, 3. No. Good. So you're ready for when that video comes. But what did she find? Mostly she found floating free in these solutions, these cells. And she's pointed out these cells not only have the filopodia, they not only have all their exterior structure, but their interior structure appears to be intact as well. How can this be? Right?
So you see this and you think, what? You say,
I didn't want to tell anybody.
You'd be ridiculed,
Yes.
right?
And so I said to my technician, okay, do it again. I don't believe it.
And yet, in sample after sample, they were there. Things that looked suspiciously like flexible, transparent blood vessels. She finally mustered the courage to tell Jack.
She said she dissolved the bone away and there were blood vessels. And, you know, I was like shocked. I mean,
How could that be?
How could that be? That's right.
The things Mary was finding inside dinosaur bones,
Look at that.
blood vessels, and even what seemed to be intact cells, pose a radical challenge to the existing rules of science, that organic material can't possibly survive even 1 million years, let alone 68 million. Mary, Jack, and their team published their B-Rex findings in a series of papers in the journal Science and were promptly attacked. Critics said their samples might have been contaminated, or that the supposed blood vessels were actually something called biofilm, a type of slime. But as Mary showed us, she's been able to replicate her findings. These are pieces of an even older dinosaur, a well-preserved 80-million-year-old duckbill. When she dissolved it away in acid,
Let's put this under the scope here.
well, look.
Is that a blood vessel?
This is a blood vessel.
You're
You
kidding.
see the branches right there? And look at all of them. And it's so consistent over and over and over again. We do this bone and it comes out and I get excited every time.
Then let's look at this soft tissue issue with dinosaurs. If they're really 63 million years old, how is it we can find soft tissue in dinosaur bones? This was first done by Mary Schweitzer. She had a T-Rex bone and she cut a slice of this off, put it under a microscope, and looked at it, and she said it was exactly like looking at a slice of modern bone. This is kind of what she saw. She let the other people in her lab have a look at it, and they got more and more excited until one of them finally blurted out, "You've got red blood cells." Now, I don't think she meant Mary Schweitzer had red blood cells, because, you know, she knew that, but she meant you got dinosaur red blood cells. Mary Schweitzer said, but of course I couldn't believe it. I said to the lab technician, the bones, after all, are 65 million years old. How could blood cells survive that long? Indeed, they can't. And how does she know the bones are 65 million years old, right? The evidence is the bone and the rock layer. She's just so imbued with the evolutionary account that she thinks they must be 65 million years old. She found some more later on. She found something that when she isolated it was flexible and resilient and stretched returns to its original shape. Isolated that, it looked like a blood vessel, and sure enough, there were blood cells inside. We had to get into the act in Canada as well. This gentleman from the University of Regina in Saskatchewan found hadrosaur skin. And he went to great lengths to point out it's real skin. So how did this remain as real skin for 70 million years? They found all kinds of stuff now, including DNA, dinosaur DNA. But don't worry, just a small fragment, 174 base pairs, so we don't have to worry about Jurassic World just yet. Now, Mary Schweitzer understood the implications of this from the evolutionary perspective, and it took her over a year before she was prepared to publish the data. She published it in Science, I think it was, but here's an interview that she published in Discovery. She said, I had one reviewer tell me he didn't care what the data said. He knew that what I was finding wasn't possible. I wrote back and said, well, what data would convince you? And he said, none. How scientific is that, right? But, you know, she said, when you think about it, the laws of chemistry and biology and everything else that we know say that it should be gone. It should be degraded completely. Now, with respect to this DNA in particular, they've done experiments at how quickly DNA degrades as a function of temperature, and under normal conditions, it degrades pretty quickly, right? At 20 degrees at room temperature, after 2,500 years, it's all disconnected. If it gets stuck in bone, apparently it'll last a little bit longer. But it won't last longer than 6.8 million years, even if it's kept at a temperature of -5 degrees Celsius. Now, I did a little calculation based on these numbers, but some interpolation, and found out that if it was kept at 17 degrees, it would take 4,500 years. Now, this fellow who found the DNA, says it won't last longer than 6.8 million years, displays the extreme improbability of being able to find a 174 base pair DNA fragment from an 85 million year old Cretaceous bone. Well, yes, because maybe it's not 85 million years old.
I actually had a professor, before I was thrown out, storm into my lab and tell me, and again, I'll send you the reprint of the paper and you can see if there's any religion in it. He said to me, we're not going to tolerate your religion in this department. This is a science department. And I asked, what's unscientific about soft tissue and dinosaur bone? And then he walked out. Well, we went to Hell Creek, and we found a very large Triceratops horn, over 40 inches long. Same area that Horner and Schweitzer dug in. This made the cover of American Laboratory. So people recognize, people who are not afraid, I guess, of these findings, recognize the value of it. Now, I told you I was going to show you the stretchy video. So this is where you go, no. And so here's a sheet of tissue that was recovered near the horn core. It's been fixed in a fixative, and it's in phosphate buffered saline, and it looks like a piece of taffy. How can this be? How can this be this stretchy when it's 68 million years old? See? So anyway, that's the stretchy video. I have a couple more to show you, so I'm going to try to work quickly here. Here you can see a piece of bone where the soft layer was literally peeled away from the bone. It had adherence to the bone, but it peeled away. And so I have a peeling video. And now I'm going to peel, this is a piece of the horn, and I'm going to peel this away from the horn. And so this is that stretchy tissue that you saw being stretched later. Here it is being peeled away from the bone. But look at that. It's staggeringly, now compare that to Mary's picture of osteocytes. And you tell me if they're better. And this is in a non-sequestered bone, highly vascular. They all have the conformation. They're all lined up like soldiers on parade. Look at the Filopodia extending through sheets. There's a sheet. Here's the Filopodia extending through. Here's another sheet, Filopodia extending through. So let's turn on this video and watch that little Filopodia. Watch it move. Right there. See it move? That's not permineralized. That's soft. See that? So these are soft cells. They look alive. Look at the collagen fibers. That's all collagen. Now we carbon dated this to 33,000 plus or minus 3. But we only use the exterior part of the horn. And most of the collagen is found in the horn core. So that should bring the date way down because of all the collagen. But here you can see the lacuna. See that shadow in there? That's where this guy cements itself in. And look at all the Filopodia. Look at all these fabulous Filopodia branching out and talking to other cells. Now, we put a scale bar up here, and it's a little hard to see. There's two green lines there. And the space between them is 250 nanometers. And some of these Filopodia are thinner than that. This becomes important because Mary published a new paper this year. Mary painted herself in a corner as an evolutionist. She still believes in evolution. She still holds to deep time. And so she did her work so carefully that I think she woke up and said, holy cow, what did I just do? And so she had to come up with an experiment to explain a mechanism for this preservation. And so what she did, anybody read her paper or heard about it? Yeah, what she did is she took ostrich femurs and decalcified them, took out the soft tissue. Then she started spinning down blood from chickens, blood from ostriches. She spun it and respun it. And why do you spin it? Get all the cells out. She took all the cells out. By the way, in her paper, she did not mention that she obviously used an anticoagulant. When you go give blood, those little tubes have a little thing in the bottom of them. A lot of that's anticoagulant. Why? Because blood clots, right? It clots right away. Why? It has clotting factor built into it. So she obviously had to use an anticoagulant, which she didn't publish in the paper. And so she soaked this ostrich tissue in there for 2 years in a bucket on a laboratory bench in an air-conditioned laboratory. And said, that's just like the Hell Creek Formation, which is not. And then she did microscopy of the cells, and she showed preservation. And if you look at one of her figures, you're seeing all this little iron oxide filaments, they're little crystals, all adorning one section of the tissue which is preserved. You look at the other side of the same micrograph, and there's all this preserved tissue with no iron filaments. If you're going to publish micrographs that show highly preserved tissue with iron fillings, make sure your micrograph is cropped so you don't include the part of highly preserved tissue with no filaments in it. Because people like me look at that and go, well, that's obvious. Okay? So I think it was sadly a desperate attempt.
InGen is infinite possibility. The days of filling in the gaps of a dinosaur's genome with frog DNA are over.
With the recent discovery that soft tissue preserved by iron chelators can produce gold mines of DNA, we can put the puzzle pieces together much faster than ever before.
Combine that with all of the extractions that we have at our amber mines in Wyoming and Latvia, we're looking at a significantly large library of DNA samples.
We're approaching 100% genome accuracy in dozens of species. And this is just step one in what we do.
This is what's really exciting.
Hello folks, this is Mark Armitage coming to you from my microscope laboratory. And I'm pretty incensed by some of the propaganda that's being put out there to support Jurassic World, the new Jurassic Park video.
Some of these animals were buried almost instantly in events like underwater mudslides, so fossilization could start right away. Without the soft tissue fossils we found from the Cambrian explosion, there's a lot we'd never know about one of the most exciting times in the history of life. We've also occasionally found soft tissue from a few other animals, including dinosaurs. In 2005, for example, researchers at North Carolina State University claimed to have found actual blood vessels and other soft tissues preserved in a T-Rex fossil, meaning that they weren't fossilized, they'd just been kept from decaying. The team suggested that the tissues were preserved because the iron in the dinosaur's blood turned into formaldehyde. But the findings are still disputed because direct preservation of organic matter over millions of years really shouldn't be possible, with or without formaldehyde.
Our website is kgov.com. We will put the audio of my conversation with Jack Horner, the Jurassic Park movie's technical advisor, on the end of this show so you can hear the hesitancy and why they don't want to test their soft tissue T-Rex mine for carbon-14. Why not? Because they're going to find it.
Hello.
Hello, could I speak to Jack Horner?
Yeah, who's calling?
This is Bob Enyart with KLTT Radio in Denver, Colorado. That's Bob Enyart.
Yeah, let me transfer you over to his office. I think he should be in there right now.
Hello?
Hello, Jack. This is Bob Enyart with KLTT Radio in Denver.
Uh-huh.
How are you doing?
Good.
Jack, I sent a letter to Bob Harmon a few weeks back offering the museum a grant of $8,000 to do a carbon-14 date test of that soft tissue T-Rex you guys dug up. And he said he would forward that to you. And I'm wondering if you saw that or considered it. You guys might have other things you'd like to carbon-14 at the same time. In fact, in the last couple of weeks, I've been able to raise a little more money, so that's up to $10,000 now, that we'd be honored to give you guys if you would consider doing that test.
Well, we can't do that test.
You can't do that?
No.
Do you mean the museum doesn't have the laboratory?
We certainly don't.
Okay, well, we're happy to pay the expense of having a lab do the test in addition to the $10,000 to the museum. But I've done a talk show in Denver for 15 years, and there's a group of folks interested in science. Of course, that discovery caught their attention, and they thought, well, it'd be logical to do this, to just go ahead and do it, even though nobody would be inclined to do it, just like nobody would be inclined to look for soft tissue inside of a T-Rex. Jack, is the amount too small that it's just not worth the consideration?
No, that's not it.
Okay. What if I were able to raise more money?
No, the amount of money has nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm. See, we were hoping that a test like this would just add another bit of scientific information that you would have at your disposal. And also, in that grant letter, we asked if it could be a blind test with 5 different specimens, and therefore then the museum could test 4 other specimens that you might want to have carbon-14 dated, and so you could put it all in the same batch, and those testing then will pay the cost of that. That'll be free to the museum plus the $10,000 grant.
Let me tell you where I'm coming from here.
Sure.
All right. Obviously, your group is a group of creationists.
Yes.
And the spin they can get off of it,
right,
doing it, is not going to help us.
Yeah. So even though it's just a scientific test, they're not asking for voodoo or anything.
It's not actually a scientific test. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Carbon-14 dating something with soft tissue in it. Jack, if I could raise $20,000, would it be worth?
I will talk to Mary Schweitzer about it.
Okay. I appreciate that. And how about this? I'll resend you the grant letter with the amount of $20,000 in it. And then you could talk to Mary and we'll see where it goes.
I want to know what group is sponsoring it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I need some really specific details about.
Sure.
And don't just tell it to me straight.
Of
okay.
course. I've hosted a daily talk show for 15 years. We're on a 50,000 watt AM station, KLTT.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a local church here, Denver Bible Church, that's offered to help. But we also have pledges from any number of individuals in the Denver community.
Okay.
So we could, if you guys agree, we could send you the check within 24 hours.
Okay. Well, let me talk to Mary, and let me just talk to a few people.
Okay.
Because I don't want to, I can't afford to have it turn into a circus.
Right. Well, I do understand that, and I appreciate your time. So,
okay. I will see Mary this next week.
Oh, that's fabulous. I'd be happy to call you back in 2 weeks from now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you so much, Jack.
You're very welcome.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
And I'm energized. Kind of like carbon-14 in diamonds. Have you heard this one? The evolutionists knew that there was no carbon-14 in diamonds. They knew it wasn't there. Why didn't they go looking for it? They knew it wasn't there. Why? Because they're old. Can't possibly have it. Who found carbon-14 in diamonds? The creationists did. Why? Because we didn't know that it wasn't there. I could spend hours talking about rock-hard evidences for young Earth. Radio halos in granites. Radio halos in diamond. I photographed radio halos in diamond. The zircons full of helium in the rocks. So many evidences exist for young Earth that are published, that have stand unrefuted, and they're ignoring them. Why? Because it doesn't fit with their explanation. Well, I say, why not this explanation?
Have you ever heard of the discovery of soft tissues found in dinosaur bones?
No, I haven't.
Best case scenario, it still falls apart. Why? Because the second law of thermodynamics.
So the fallback position is, well, maybe there's a mechanism for preserving these biomolecules that we haven't yet understood.
The soft tissue that Dr. Schweitzer discovered is from a T-Rex that was buried in the Hell Creek Formation in Montana. Now, this whole Hell Creek Formation is considered to be more than 65 million years old.
So how did they calibrate their radiometric methods?
They calibrate them based on the assumptions that the world is old.
If someone wants to make a claim that your position is not scientific, a lot of times that's based on their definition of science.
One of the reasons as well that the soft tissue is currently overlooked is because evolutionists have claimed, oh, we have an answer for that.
Well, one of the things that we like to say in creation science is that floods form fossils fast. The fact that all the fossils in the strata, we have the strata all the way up to the top of the strata. Most of the fossils, over 95% of them, are marine fossils. So the fossil record itself screams flood.
Because there should not be any soft, I mean, this is actually pliable, stretchy, elastic tissue after millions of years. I mean, there's just no way that can exist. So I think
the scientific evidence, not only from soft tissue, but from molecular biology, from genomics, from every single area of biology is wrecking evolution at this point.
You're now faced with how could you explain the survival of this, the pristine survival of this, not only for so long, but in very unpristine conditions. And so then the controversy has been, how do you explain it? And if you read some of the literature, there's almost like desperation of, because they recognized what the implications of this could be. Now, some people would claim, well, it means nothing because we know how old they are, and therefore it just means it survived somehow, big deal. But how do you know how old they are? Well, you use methods, supposed methods of dating. Well, this is a method of dating. The tissue itself can't be discounted as part of a method of dating. So why do you say that doesn't count, but this does count? Well, it's all the paradigm drives your conclusions. The paradigm is it has to be old. Therefore, methods that give us an old fossil are what we choose. Something that doesn't give us an old fossil, like tissue, we have to reject or explain away.
At least to me, and of course I'm not a microbiologist, but I think most people would say, well, that just seems reasonable to think that maybe these are not that old.
Clearly, this is in violation of the dating process. It challenges the entire dating process. If the fossils of dinosaurs have been dated incorrectly, which I would say this is clear evidence they have, then it's very likely the fossils of any organism have been dated incorrectly, and therefore then the geologic ages themselves are incorrect.
What you're saying is that if you pull out the notion of a long period of time, you're pulling out a major foundation for the conventional paradigm.
Absolutely. In fact, time is the critical component for evolution. If you're going to say that a simple cellular system became a multicellular system that then became fish, and the fish then jumped up on land and grew legs and started breathing air, and then that creature grew feathers and wings and started flying. So if you give us time, we'll claim to account for all of this massive change of organisms, but we got to have the time.
You heard a lot of straw men set up yesterday in this room and knocked down. Well, here's one you can knock down. My prediction is this. The fossil record is full of soft tissue. This is the norm rather than the exception. That's my prediction. And so I invite whomever to prove me wrong. Go out and dig up the fossils. Do the decalcification. Do the microscopy. In fact, I will teach you myself if you don't know how to do it. Because I want you to prove me wrong. If I'm wrong, I want to know it. But that's my prediction. This is the norm in the fossil record, not the exception. They often say creationists don't make predictions. There's one you can write down. You can email it to all your friends. Get them a copy. How do we get copies of this? Get a copy of the DVD and send it out.
Jack Horner is looking. His crews are now wearing surgical gloves, unheard of in the world of paleontology, where no one used to worry about getting skin cells, sweat, even an occasional spilled beer on fossils. Jack is skeptical that the full dinosaur DNA sequence will ever be found, but that hasn't stopped him